Hello YouTube, this is Daniel here from Tech Tutorials 101, back here with another video. In this video today I'm going to be showing you how to enable data deduplication and also explaining how it works. So data deduplication can be enabled in file and storage services. You will have to install the role, which can be installed via Server Manager. So if you go into Manage, Add Role and Features, and come down to server roles and then file and storage services and then expand this here. You can see data deduplication, and you can also install it via PowerShell via the install-Windows feature commandlet. And to enable it, you can come down to disks. I apologize. You can come down to volumes. You can right click volumes, and then we can go through and configure data deduplication. So if you haven't heard of data deduplication or you don't know much about it, we can see on the Microsoft documentation here that data deduplication is essentially a way to optimize your storage. This can only be used on data volumes, and it can free up a large amount of use space on the disk. Commonly in a lot of organizations, a lot of information gets shared and duplicated across different folders. Through various teams working on it. You may have finance working on a certain spreadsheet, and data inside that spreadsheet gets copied and sent to the facilities team, or PDFs get shared around different teams and they all get saved in their own areas. And this can create a large amount of unoptimized space. So what data deduplication will do, it will optimize that space for us and free up a lot of space. And in order to do that, we can see down here, it takes chunks of the Word files, Excel files, or any files that it can see is duplicated. And then it removes these chunks, and in the place of these chunks, it places pointers. And those pointers will point to another directory or a chunk store, as they call it. And then this chunk store gets compressed, so there's only one copy of the data and pointers placed in those files to that copy of the data, and that way you've got rid of most of the deduplication and you've gained an awful amount of space. This process is invisible to users, so they won't know whether the files have been deduplicated. There's going to be no difference in data or Excel files. It's essentially just taking that duplicated data and putting it into a chunk store and then compressing it and then leaving pointers here, as you can see, a repass point to that data in the chunk store. So if we go back to our server here, we can see I've got a volume here with 500 gigabyte and it's got free space of 496 gigabyte. So what I've done to show you this is I've created just a mock data drive here, which you can see in many organizations. And in each folder, I've actually got a SQL Server Studio Management installer, and that's about 500 meg in each folder. And again, it's duplicated across all folders, and you can see this quite often in organizations where the IT team will send an installer to a user, and the user will copy it across and then hand it over to the rest of the users, and it gets copied across the whole organization and takes up a lot of space. So in order to free up that, we can come into volumes, right click, data deduplication, or configure data dedup, and we can see here it's now disabled. So you want to go ahead and select general purpose file server, and you can see here it can also be used for a virtualized backup server and a VDI server as well. So if there's certain folders you don't want to run data dedup on, or some file extensions such as Excel or PowerPoint or anything that's really important that you don't want to run dedup on, just in case there's any issues, you can stick it in here. Or if you wanted to exclude finance, for example, you can add that folder path in here. So we can set a deduplication schedule. You could run it once or twice a week, or maybe even every day if you're really tight on storage. I normally would recommend around twice a week. And it does take up a lot of memory resource, so I'd recommend twice a week and outside of operating hours. So I'm just going to go ahead and enable this here. That's done. And we've got this setting here to deduplicate files older than 3 days. I'm going to take this down to 0. So that's up to you really how long you want to leave the folders there for, or files, before deduplication will run on them. I'm just going to go and apply that setting and click OK. And now to see this in action, we can actually manually force a deduplication job through PowerShell. So we open up Windows PowerShell, and once you start dedup job, and then we're going to specify the volume. And for the volume, you actually have to put it in quote marks and use the colon. You can't just have the letter. And then we can specify type, optimization, and we can also specify how much memory, like the maximum amount of memory which can be used. So I'm going to use 50, and this is in terms of percentages. I'm going to press enter. And we can see that started now, and we can view the process of this in Get-DedupJob. And just for reference, we saw it have 496 gigabyte free at the start. So what we'll do is we'll let this run, and I'll come back in a sec when it's completed. Right, so we can see here that the data dedup job has now been completed. For this drive, it took less than 2 minutes to complete, as there's not an awful lot of data. If you've got a normal file storage, like in an average organization, it could take a few hours to run this, as there's going to be loads of little files with duplicated data in there. And it's going to take a long time to create those repass points and also compress all of the chunks of data. But we can see here the duplication savings of 2.92 gigabyte and a deduplication rate of 53%. And if we go back into the drive, we can see that the installation files are still there. This would be completely invisible to the user, but we have freed up an additional 2.5 or, oh, sorry, 2.9 gigabyte of space. So this can be really beneficial for any file storage server if you keep running out of space. Reduce costs and optimize your storage as well. So if you do have any issues with data dedup, be it performance or any instances of missing data, there's no need to worry. This can be automatically reversed. There are no issues with it. To reverse it, you would come into PowerShell, start dedup job, and specify the volume, which I'm going to do now, and then the type. So the type would be Unoptimization, and then I'm just going to specify the memory 50 again, and we'll run that, and that will reverse the optimization, put all the files back in the place they were before, and remove those repass points. Yeah, it would send the volume back to the way it was before we started the dedup job. So nothing is actually deleted. So if you're trying to explain this role to your organization or IT manager, nothing in this role gets deleted. Essentially, data just gets moved, and then pointers are placed in those original files. Again, the user is not going to notice that this has been done, and you're going to be able to optimize your file storage and save an awful amount, a lot of data. So that is the end of this video. If you have any further suggestions on Windows Server Administration, AWS, or any other system administration topics, please do let me know. Please like the video, and please subscribe.